Welcome to Design Your Way, the podcast that helps you build a creative career that truly reflects who you are. You're finishing your studies or just starting out in the professional world, in architecture, design, or any other creative field, and you're wondering how to navigate this transition, find your path, and build a career that feels meaningful to you. I'm Louise Blanche, a final year student in architecture in France, passionate about creation, communication, and entrepreneurship. Here we talk about everything we don't learn in school: how to land your first job, understand the reality of the profession, how to create your own project, and how to present yourself in a way that attracts the right opportunities. We'll meet twice a month for expert interviews, conversations with other students and young professionals, and some more personal episodes where I will share my reflections and the lessons I've learned along the way. Whether you're a student, a recent graduate, or already starting your career, this podcast is here to support you, to give you practical tools, and to inspire you to move forward at your own pace. And in this episode, I'll share with you my 4 unpopular opinion about architecture and working in architecture as a final year architecture student. So this is my view of things. I'm gonna talk with a lot of honesty, going against some rules, but I really think you can benefit from it as I did when I started noticing it. Hi guys, welcome to this new episode of Design Your Way podcast. I'm really glad you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listening to this podcast. And I think this episode might interest you because it's going to be a little spicier than usual. Just know that these are opinions that might feel uncomfortable. It's fine. I don't want to attack architecture or anyone listening. I just want to open some honest conversations about those topics. I'm a final year architecture student. I don't know everything. And yeah, these opinions come from my own experience, my observations, and my own questionings. So let's get started with my first unpopular opinion about architecture, and it is that you don't need to sacrifice your health to be dedicated to work. I've stood against all-nighters, against missing meals or not sleeping ever since I started architecture. I strongly believe that this is counterproductive, that is just a very toxic industry, that this should not have to happen, and that it definitely isn't a mark that you're taking your work more seriously. I just think it means that you're not able to put boundaries, and to me this is almost as crucial as being dedicated. So no, I really don't think that working longer hours, working on the weekends, or just overworking when you are not in a state that is actually productive. So night shifts, I really don't think it's that productive, or sleeping too little to be able to work. Sometimes you actually work worse. So I really think that this culture has to change. There's still a lot of schools and a lot of firms where architects are pretty pushed to work over hours and overwork themselves, and also work at night or not sleep or skip meals. And I really think that this is not okay. This should not happen, and we have rights as every single person. Yeah, it shouldn't happen in a workplace or at a school, and it should definitely not be encouraged by the people that are higher from you. So it could be your teachers, your boss, the project manager, whatever, but this is not okay. And I know a lot of students and even architects and professionals take pride in their amount of dedication because they're spending so much time, effort, energy, and their nights on their projects. And I really don't think this should be valued in the way that it is, because it is very toxic, it is very counterproductive, it's terrible for your health, and we shouldn't emphasize it that much, and we really shouldn't tell people to do that. And I really strongly believe that hard work also means having strong boundaries, and that a profession that is centered on building better communities should also have better working conditions. My second unpopular opinion is that it doesn't matter how good your project is, if you can't communicate it, it's worth nothing. So this is quite a big take, but we pretty much learn it the hard way in the field of architecture. The big architects, the one that have the most interesting projects, who have the biggest clients, who are doing the most innovative projects, are the ones that are visible. Because if your project is really cool, but no one sees it, then it won't ever exist. So the architects that actually succeed are the ones that are mastering marketing, sales, communication, and the other ones just stay hidden at the back. and earn way less and have way less access to the bigger projects or the most interesting ones. Because I really think, and it's the case in every creative field, that talent is not enough if you don't show it to someone. And this is something that we don't learn at architecture school, that we almost never learn until like people start a firm and then they're confronted to it, and sometimes doing a terrible job at it. We never learn and we never understand how it works. So I really think that working on the way that you present your value as an individual, if you're a working architect in a firm, or as a firm or as an architecture studio, this is so important because it will increase the perceived value, which means you will be able to be paid more, but also gain more recognition and start to make yourself a name. And this is built through visibility, through communication, through relationships with other people, and not only through drawings. Because if you have a great project in your mind but you can't explain it to your client, then you won't ever be able to build it and no one is going to be willing to pay for it. So it's the case really for the projects themselves, but also for the firm or the studio. And I really think that architects should also start to gain a sense of entrepreneurship, because the successful architects are actually the ones that are building their own studio and building your own studio. And so your own firm means building a company. And this is called being an entrepreneur. And we don't learn anything about that. And it's so important. So I really think that the most valuable skills that we can get as architecture students or young architects is to learn to communicate and to sell and to show our value. So if you can, try discovering marketing, communication, storytelling outside of school, because your school won't teach it to you, but it's going to be the most determining point of your career. Because architects are just great at designing, but usually don't have the knowledge or the practice to sell and to tell their story in the best way, which is the same as for management. And this brings us to our next unpopular opinion, and it is that architecture studios are run like an architectural project and not like an actual business. Because most architecture studios are actually founded and run by architects who have learned the hard way when starting their own studio how to be a good business owner, how to be a good manager, how to be a good salesperson. And it's really hard. It's a lot of things that are new, and usually you have a different school for each of these. But as architects, if we want to build our own studio, we have to learn it the hard way when we're actually already doing it. And that's why usually management in architecture firms is just non-existent, because no one is an actual manager. No one was taught how to manage other people, and it usually becomes that every single person is working on their project, but there's not a real management or a real following or someone that is taking care of what is happening. Most studios even don't do like a weekly point or a monthly checkup just to make sure that everything's working fine. And usually there's just no management, especially in smaller firms. And usually in architecture studios, it's all architects. There's almost no other disciplines. And it also means that it's just the same people all together, so you can't even learn from those good examples. And it's not only management, but also sometimes the structure of the company or even the strategy that is lacking, because we are only with architects, and so we don't have those skills specifically. So I really think one great way to overcome this is to actually start partnering with people who are not in this field and learn from them and collaborate. So really embracing working with other people from other fields. And my final unpopular opinion is that studying architecture doesn't mean that you have to become an architect. Because yes, there's this big pressure when you're studying architecture to become an architect and the best architect possible. But as much as it's a great profession, and I think there's a lot to be done and to benefit from, but I also really think that studying architecture brings you so much more than being able to be an architect. I think by only seeing the goal, we forget what we actually learn, and those are very valuable skills like design, strategy, problem solving, teamwork, and those can be applied to many other fields. It gives you a view on what it takes to build a project from nothing. And it could be a project of architecture, but also so many different projects. It shows you how to learn and how to research, how to understand a place, how to understand people, and how to create a solution for them. And this could be applied to any type of business or product or design. And I really want to share this opinion that if you study architecture, you're not betraying your studies if you're evolving in another field. You're just using everything that you've learned for something else. Sometimes something even greater, sometimes something so much more different, or sometimes something that just feels aligned with you. And I think this is really fine, and you shouldn't try to fit into being an architect if it feels like you're doubting. Allow yourself to doubt, and you don't have to end up the architect. I know there's more recognition in the society, but it doesn't have to be where you end up, and I think it's really fine. And I also want to add a little thing, and is that I really believe that I've learned more about architecture when I wasn't doing architecture. It's usually pretty counterintuitive, but architecture is just made out of so many things that when you start looking a little bit further than architecture itself, that's when you learn the most. It's when doing or growing projects outside of your architecture school or your practice that you're actually bringing so much value in. And I really believe that we should emphasize this and have side projects and build our own values and our own skills through other things than just architecture. Because architecture doesn't exist in isolation. It's the place where everything is tied together. And so for this, you need to understand everything else. So build a side project, start another hobby, try something new, and then you will be able to bring it back into your own practice or your own path or career. So these unpopular opinions are just observations. They're not absolute truth. They're what I've seen, what I've witnessed as a young architect. And questioning a field doesn't mean quitting it. It just means being more aware of it and how to use it for myself, but also for other people around me. And that's also why I'm sharing all of this with you, because I really want to help you build your path beyond only architecture, but designing something that feels meaningful to you. So I really hope this could help you in some way. If you like this episode, please leave a review. This would help the podcast so much to be recommended to other young architects who would be interested in it. So I would really appreciate if you could take just 2 minutes to write a little review on your podcast platform, and if you're watching on YouTube, to write down a comment. And if you think this episode could help one of your friends, you can send it to them. Thank you so much for taking the time to listening to this podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!